Hey guys, and welcome back to another 5-minute tutorials. And this one we're going to work with the BSP volumes a little bit more. We're going to look at editing some of the geometry to make some more funky shapes, more predefined shapes. Okay, so let's get started. What we're going to do is I'm going to just move away from the box that I created there. I'm going to go back to my modes tab and I'm going to place another BSP volume. But this time I'm going to create another box. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a second box in here that's going to be subtractive. So you remember as we did last time. Okay, and I'm just going to cut away a section to make some sort of misshapen object. Yep, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another one. There, so now we've got this little step, and we've got the two, they look like walls to me, but okay. So now we've got this box here, or I've got this one here. This one here I can't really affect the geometry of, or I can do actually, but I can't affect it how I want. I want to basically move this wall slightly, and I'm going to not curve it, but I'm going to triangulate this plane into two separate planes. And it's going to affect the texture, and it's going to mess around with a few other things, but let's worry about that when we get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go to geometry editing, or you can use the quick keys, which are Shift F5, and I'm just going to click into one of the individual vertices. These little points on the corners, basically any corner of any plane, is called a vertex, or vertices for plural. Anyway. So we're going to grab hold of it, and I'm just going to shift it around a little bit, and you can see that that's just turned that one there from one single plane to two triangulated planes. Now triangulation is just a fancy way of saying it's taken a plane and it's cut it in half in the most efficient way possible to... Oh, that deleted that. We didn't want to do that, did we? Yeah. It's just a fancy way of saying it's cut it into two so that we can then apply a curve or a misshape to it. Now I'm just going to quickly apply the texture and show you what happens. You can see there that the line alignment and the texturing is different from how it was before, and this is because of that triangulation. Now you can use what's called UV mapping in real world. When you look, when we go into the 3ds Max stuff and we start looking at modeling, actually UV mapping is where you're taking a shape and you're cutting out all the planes and you flatten them out, and then you can remap the texture to fit in seamlessly. We're going to do that in depth in one of the future videos, and we're going to look into 3ds Max, and we're going to look into Maya, which are two Autodesk products, which are used quite widely in the gaming industry. But for now, we're not going to worry about it too much because it's not something that is going to affect us right now. The moment we're just looking at basics of geometry editing. So yeah, anyway, let's just go back to how our boxes were before. There you go. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reselect my cube, my main cube, and I'm going to create another one by Alt and drag. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a whole cube, and that is in the BSP volumes. That's an additive, and you notice that it's not cut away any of this. That's because it was added in the world afterwards, so it's added it back on top of the areas that we subtracted. Now, this is an important point to note. The subtractive, when I add it, is, if I went to additive and then I go back to subtractive, is a thing that happens before. So once I've affected a volume, it won't then affect other volumes. So again, if I went and dragged this cube into here, it would sit in there nicely. So you can see that we can actually add other objects and they're not going to be deleted. So if I wanted to then create another cube, and let's just alt drag, create there, and now I'm going to turn that one to subtractive, and you'll see that all it's done is it's just created a little plinth inside. You see that? I can just go back to one of these boxes and I can select a whole pane, and again I can just shift everything across that way. So you can see there that it's literally just shifted and moved the geometry of that box. Now another thing to note about texturing is the fact that this texture hasn't moved at all. All it's done is if you imagine that the texture's already there, and then the box just denotes a world space or a world volume that shows texture and doesn't show texture. It's probably the best way to describe it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.